Welcome to the Pharmacist Voice podcast, episode 309. I am your host and Ohio pharmacist Chem Newlove. We're working our way through the alphabet from A to Z in my drug pronunciation series, and this episode covers the letter E. E is for empagliflozin. Empagliflozin is the generic name, and Jardiance is the brand name. If you look at the list of other drug names in this series, you will see that we have actually covered at least two other generic drug names that start with the letter E. They are ezetimibe and eszopiclone. You can find the list of the other 44 drug names in this series in the show notes on thepharmacistvoice.com. Click on the podcast tab and then find episode 309. This is the 45th episode in this drug pronunciation series. Let's get started. By the way, we don't cover pharmacology here, it's just the pronunciations. So, with that in mind, let me tell you how these drug pronunciation episodes work. I break drug names down into syllables, tell you which syllables to emphasize, and then I share my sources. The written pronunciations can be helpful, so those are in the show notes for episode 309 on thepharmacistvoice.com. I recommend that you practice saying both drug names, empagliflozin and Jardiance, until you master them. Repetition is the key to mastery. Let's talk about that generic name first, empagliflozin. Empagliflozin has 5 syllables, just like dapagliflozin from episode 307. The first syllable is M, like the letter in the alphabet, M. Pa, like Pacific, as in the ocean on the west coast of the United States. Pa. Gli, like glitter, the crafting supply that we use tons of at this time of the year. As I record this, it is December 18th, 2024. It's almost Christmas. Lots of glitter at the Newlove house. Flow is the fourth syllable. Flow as in water flows out of a faucet. And zin, like Zinfandel, which is a very popular wine here in the United States, especially on the West Coast near the Pacific Ocean, as it happens. Put all 5 syllables together and you get empagliflozin. Emphasize M and FLOE. FLOE gets the most emphasis. See if you can hear M and FLOE emphasized when I say them again. Empagliflozin. Empagliflozin. What's my source? I have 2 sources for that generic drug name pronunciation. They are the USP Dictionary Online and MedlinePlus.gov. MedlinePlus is a free resource, and the USP Dictionary Online is a subscription-based reference. The written pronunciations for empagliflozin in both references are identical, and you'll find links to both references in the show notes on thepharmacistvoice.com. That does it for the generic name. Let's move on to the brand name, which is Jardiance. Jardiance has 3 syllables. Jar, like a jar of honey. D, like the letter in the alphabet, D. And ence, like the end of the word fence. It looks like it should be pronounced like the end of the word France, because it's spelled A-N-C-E, but it's more like ence, like fence. Put that all together and you get Jardiance. Emphasize D. According to the medication guide, you should emphasize D. Now, when I say it, I feel like I emphasize jar, but let's see what you hear when you hear me say it again. Jardiance. Jardiance. I have 2 sources for the pronunciation of Jardiance. They are the medication guide for Jardiance, which you can find at jardiance.com. That is spelled Jardiance, jardiance.com. And my other source is a commercial for Jardiance on YouTube. They actually have a song and dance going on in this commercial, which is really interesting. I'll have links to both the medication guide and that singing commercial there from YouTube in the show notes on thepharmacistvoice.com. Let's review. I broke empagliflozin and Jardiance down into syllables, told you which syllables to emphasize, and I shared my sources. I put the written pronunciations in the show notes on thepharmacistvoice.com, and my last comment to you is that you need to practice saying both drug names if you want to master them. Look at the written pronunciations from the show notes while you say them. Reading those written pronunciations that have been broken down into syllables makes saying drug names easier. It's a trick that I use. I am passing it on to you. It works for lots of drug names, so use that trick yourself. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me to learn how to say empagliflozin and Jardiance. To find the show notes for this episode, go to thepharmacistvoice.com, click on the podcast tab, and search for episode 309. In the show notes, you will find the written pronunciations for both drug names and lots of links. I always have lots of links in my show notes. Today, you will find a link to the USP Dictionary online, MedlinePlus, Jardiance's medication guide, and the Jardiance commercial on YouTube. Enjoy the song and dance. I'll also have links to the other 44 episodes in my drug pronunciation series in the show notes, along with my social media links. I am a big fan of LinkedIn, so if you would like to reach out and connect, I will watch for your invitation on LinkedIn. If you are looking for a medical narrator for your voiceover project, I can help. Among other things, I am a medical narrator. Go to thepharmacistvoice.com, hit the contact tab, and leave me a message. If you know someone who would like to learn how to say empagliflozin and Jardiance, please share this episode with them. And if you like this podcast, please subscribe to or follow the Pharmacist Voice podcast on your favorite podcast player and YouTube to get each new episode right when it comes out. Thank you so much for listening today, and I will talk to you next week.